could you first briefly describe the Bridges program and your position that you have in it?
I recently just got promoted to the supervisor of the Bridges program. The Bridges program is a mentoring program for emancipated youth that age out of foster care at the age of 18. And we just mentor them, help them find apartments, jobs, and yeah.
Awesome. What brought you into this line of work?
I've always wanted to help the youth. I never knew about this program until my friend Caitlin reached out to me and explained the program to me. And I wanted to give it a shot because the adult community is very underserved. There's not enough programs out there to help the foster youth once they reach the age of 18. So that's how I kind of got into it a little bit.
And you do home visits, correct?
Mhm.
What do those usually look like for you?
So it kind of depends on the level of, or the tier level for each individual young adult. So there's 3 different levels. Tier 1, you go into their home once a month, and tier 2s and 3s, you go into their home twice a month. What that kind of would consist of is making sure that their bills are paid. So they'll either show us through their AES app or their phone app, those kinds of things, just to ensure that they have been paid. And then we would also go in, make sure they have food in the refrigerator, in the cabinets, and have all their necessities met, as far as they have a bed to sleep on, not an air mattress, not blankets on the ground. We help them with stuff like that, couch, pots, pans, silverware, flip on the lights, making sure that they have adequate lighting and heating, just all that kinds of stuff. And then you just kind of talk to them about what they're going through currently, how work's going, or school, or whatever their eligibility criteria is.
Okay, cool. Do you mind going into like the eligibility criteria a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are 5 different categories of eligibility. So not only do they have to be emancipated from foster care, whatever county that might be, they have to either be working 80 hours in 30 days, they have to be enrolled in high school and attending 70% of school, or enrolled in post-secondary college. So they have to have at least 7 credit hours for that, or engaged in therapy. And the last one is any program that would help them reduce any types of barriers.
Cool, thank you. Okay, so since you've spent a few years now working for Bridges, like what are some common reasons that like teenagers age out of foster care that you've seen? Like if there's any like specific like commonalities between the kids you see age out?
Age out of foster care, or like get terminated from our program?
Age out of foster care to go into Bridges. Do you deal with most of that stuff, or?
They reach the age of 18. So typically on their 18th birthday, they either get terminated because they're 18,
Yeah.
or sometimes some counties will keep them in until they complete high school, or if they have more needs that need to be met prior to them becoming an actual adult, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
Just because they turn 18 does not always necessarily mean they can take care of themselves, I should say.
Right. I guess specifically like what I'm asking, like since like foster parents are usually very selective, do you notice any like patterns or specific characteristics among like the teenagers you get? Like if there's certain demographics of people or like certain kinds of kids that are more likely to age out of foster care and end up in Bridges than others?
We get a wide variety, actually. A lot of young adults that make it into the program as soon as they emancipate from foster care are typically the ones that are doing what they need to, I guess you could say, as far as going to school, listening to their foster parents, working with their county worker to get them to the stage of them being ready for the program. We do get a lot of referrals for young adults that are what's called AWOL, or complicated to deal with, I guess you could say. Those ones don't get in as quickly because they're not used to having like a foundation that they have to depend on for themselves, if that makes sense. So where in foster care, their foster parent is kind of doing everything for them. Once they reach 18 and is out of the program, they have to figure out how to adult by themselves. They don't have someone necessarily to depend on, so that's what the program is here to help. A lot of kids, once they emancipate, they don't want to be in another program. They don't want to have someone else telling them what they can and can't do. And that's what the common misconception is about this program is we're here to tell you what to do. No, we're here to help and mentor you to make your life, daily life better and hopefully easier because we pay them to be a part of the program too, so.
That's awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you, like, off the top of your head, and it's okay if you don't, like, have, like, a rough estimate for about how many people are in Bridges, like, as of, like, the program right now?
Currently, we have about 35, and then we have about 3 or 4 in the referral stage.
Okay, cool. And then sorry.
You're fine.
So during our research for this documentary, we've noticed how few foster parents there are, sort of like compared to the number of children that need to be fostered. Like, why do you think this is?
It's like $1 million question, I feel like. Why do I feel like it is?
Just sort of based on like what you've seen firsthand and been a part of.
A lot of foster parents have a difficult time navigating some what you can call troubled kids or more of a high needs, whether it's medical or more attention based. They have a harder time navigating that, and sometimes maybe dealing with the part of reunification. So some people get into fostering because they want that child for themselves, and then most counties will get those youth reunified with their biological family. So having youth in their home, in and out, sometimes it's the same youth that keeps coming back, and it's hard for sometimes the foster parents to accept that like they're not the permanent home for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then going into like our next question, like from your point of view, how does this like sense of instability from like all this bouncing back and forth affect these like individuals and like teenagers when they're not able to like find like a safe spot and like a home to permanently be in?
They continue that into their adulthood, unfortunately. Most of the time when they're in the care system and they're bouncing from home to residential to group homes or whatever that may look like, they tend to do that into their adulthood. So they think, every 3 months they need a new apartment, or they burn those bridges with that landlord because they may not be paying a bill, or they just may be disruptive in breaking the lease. So they just become like, okay, well, Cincinnati's not working out for me, let me move to Dayton. If Dayton's not working out for me, let me move to Columbus. Or even bouncing around from living with this friend to that friend in Toledo. Like they go all over the place. Like right now I have a young adult that lives in Texas in the program. So we go out there and see them, but they started at Dayton and now they're about to move to Minnesota. So it's just, if they don't have that sense of home, they're going to keep looking for that. And sometimes it's a place, sometimes it's a person. It just depends.
Awesome, thank you. Have you noticed any like specific forms of discrimination towards foster kids? This could be either like in how like society or the public like treats and perceives them, or like how parents are pretty like selective about like, whether they want kids with like certain, like how some kids with certain like disabilities or conditions like tend to not be like as, I guess, frequently taken in as like kids that are a bit more like stable in that sense?
That's a hard question to answer just because there's different care levels for all those different young adults, or foster youth, I'm sorry, that the foster parents has to get certified in certain categories in order to take in that youth. So I'm not sure how much you're aware, but for, let's say, a foster youth needs a GI tube or something inputted and changed frequently, that foster parent has to be specifically certified and trained in that. And not a lot of foster parents are willing to go that extra mile for that foster youth to make them have a home or give them that option of a home. Discrimination, there are a lot of foster homes that have age groups that they prefer because that's maybe what they do well with. And then we have other homes that want like 5 and below, or they want all girls or all boys. It also just depends on the criteria of that foundation in the home too, which we think is beneficial if they have that specifics, because rather than just taking a foster youth and throwing it into a home where they may not thrive because that foster parent may not do well with that age group or that gender or something along those lines.
Right, okay, thank you. What are some of the fears people have about becoming foster parents? Kind of going back to how there's like a much smaller amount of people willing to become parents compared to like how many children are out there.
A fear of foster parents?
Yeah, like why do you think people are more hesitant to like become foster parents?
I've had a friend that tried to become a foster parent recently, probably about 2 years ago now. They were having a hard time with the reunification part. Taking a foster youth in and giving them that tender, loving care for, could be a couple days, could be a couple months, could be years, that youth is in your home, and then next thing you know it, that biological parent or aunt or uncle that came up out of kind of nowhere sometimes, or wanting that child back, or that biological family did the necessary parts for the reunification. Like sometimes they need to do anger management classes or help with getting a stable apartment and stuff like that. Then that foster youth being reunified into their home. Another thing is you never know what you're getting. So there's something called like a face sheet or a fact sheet about a youth that the county or an organization would put on that paper for them that categorizes like the behaviors, the educational level, all of that kind of criteria on one form, and you can read it. That doesn't always necessarily mean that's what you're getting in that youth. They could be more delinquent. They could be more yes ma'am, no ma'am, and you can't always put everything on a piece of paper. So sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow, is you kind of get to, yes, you get to pick and choose, but it's still hard to pick and choose. So that could be a fear, getting somebody that you're not necessarily ready for.
Right, that makes sense. I guess that kind of does relate to my next question, which would be like, what are some common like behavioral traits you've seen in like these young adults that tend to come into the Bridges program? Like obviously, they're all like different people. But
Right.
Is there anything specific that you've picked up on over the time here?
They just want to be on their own. Again, like I said before, they don't want another case manager telling them what they can and can't do. But that's the huge difference in foster care versus our program is, again, we're just there to make sure you're safe and stable. You have lights, you have heating and stuff like that. Another big one is a lot of the youth that come into our program already have a record. So it's hard to get them in housing based on maybe a background check that the leasing company would have to do. So sometimes that's hard, and sometimes they just don't care. They just want to go live with their boyfriend or girlfriend or the love of their life or something.
Why do you think it's important to provide these teenagers with extra resources as they make the transition into adulthood?
They're our future. 100%, they're our future. The more we can help and educate them, the better it could be for their kids or our kids, because we have young adults in our program that has dependents. So if they had a very traumatic upbringing, you want to help teach them how to raise their dependents so they don't have to endure what they endured. You know, a lot of the young adults nowadays that do have kids are, I don't want to be not anything like my parents, or I don't want to do that, so how can I be better? You do have cases like that, and it's just sometimes it's like a light in their eyes that just pops up when they're talking about the dependent and how, you know, I got them enrolled in school. Sometimes it's those little things that just really gets them going, and it's just a positive for them moving forward. You know, you want them to contribute to society, you want them to have beneficial jobs, you want them to go towards their dreams, and whether it be a nurse. Maybe I go in one day 10 years down the road and that young adult is now my nurse, and you know, I help them get there. So just helping them contribute to society.
That's awesome. I feel like we have kind of like touched on this a bit, but what are like some of the resources that Bridges specifically provides for these foster teens as they transition into adulthood?
Job hunting, job security. We can't guarantee you that they're going to get hired, but we can prep them and get them ready for interviews, help them learn how to apply. Month to month, we help them budget, so we ensure they pay their bills. So each month, like, they get a certain amount of funds, and we help them, like, okay, well, this amount needs to go towards this bill. Can you show me that you paid it? Or this is how you pay it. Apartment hunting in order to the point that it fits in their budget. It could be us helping them find resources for furniture, so they can furnish a safe and stable home. It could go as far as maybe they need parenting classes or therapy or anger management. Like, we help as much as we possibly can in that atmosphere.
That's awesome. I know you guys have like, it's very limited how much you can keep in contact with young adults that age out of Bridges, but are you aware of what usually like happens to them after they get out of Bridges, like what their usual like path from there looks like?
Yeah, actually, once you build that rapport with your young adult and you've been a consistent person in their life for the 3 years of their first adulthood years, I guess you can say, they still come to you and reach out to you for, hey, guess what? I got accepted into college. Or, hey, guess what? Like, I've been able to save $1,500. Like, those little things, like, you still get check-ins every so often, and those, when you get those text messages, it's just like such a relief. It's like, you know, like, I know for myself, I did something right when working with that young adult. So they still have that ability to reach out to us, and every so often I would text them on their birthday, like, hey, happy birthday, or hey, how's, you know, maybe their daughter or son doing? Like, they should be like 6 now. Are they in school? You know, just stuff like that. It's limited, but because we can't provide a whole lot of resources, but we can give them support still in that atmosphere and that way form. Yeah.
Okay, and then I guess like, how does it feel to see the young adults you've worked with for years end up like leaving Bridges?
Sometimes it makes me sad. So obviously I've been in the program, a part of the program, 3 years now, and I just took the supervisor role, which means I no longer am going to have a caseload. I'm just going to be monitoring everybody's caseload. So it's been hard doing that transition with some of them, because I've had them since they've been 18, and now, like, one of them just had a birthday yesterday. He just turned 20, so he's like, and I just saw him before I came in. He was like, you know, it's going to suck not being able to like reach out, because you build a relationship, you build a rapport with them, and you were their relying support, healthy, supportive person in their life for 2 years. So it kind of sucks sometimes, but it's like, you know, you did your job, you know, you did well, and all that you can do is motivate them to keep moving forward with that new liaison or that new job that they've been yearning for 3 years, or continue and finish college. Like, that's all you can really do, honestly.
And then for these like young adults, like I know that was you talking about like what the transition from like bridges to adulthood looks like on your end. What does that transition look like for the like bridges?
The young adult themselves. It can be good. If they do their part in the program and budget appropriately, they should, in a perfect world, leave the program with savings account, because we provide all of their needs for them, and pay for all their bills. So if they're working, they should essentially be saving all of their, what we call personal income. And that way they can purchase a car, they can purchase a home, hopefully by the time that they leave the program. I had a young adult age out, and she had I think like $8,000 in the bank account because she did the program right, So I will say that there are some situations where young adults get terminated from the program because they end up getting arrested for something they did. That's unfortunate sometimes, but you got to focus on the positive stories and know that you're helping them, I guess.
What exactly is like the criteria for the young adults to get terminated from the program besides like getting arrested?
So being incarcerated for 60 days, submitting fraudulent documentation, that could be anywhere from pay stubs or anything like that, and just not meeting the eligibility type. So like I explained, is in 30-day period, they don't make 80 hours. They get what's called a notice of ineligibility, a notice of termination. They have an additional 30 days to regain that eligibility before they're officially terminated from the program. They are allowed to re-enroll, though, if they do get terminated. If they get terminated for fraudulent documentation, they have 90 days until they can reapply. The only time they're not able to come back to the program is if they're 21. There's different agencies. So we've had young adults transfer because they moved outside of our like little district area. Or maybe for some other particular reasons. Maybe they requested a change in agency, but yeah.
And then what motivates you to help these individuals who have aged out find success as young adults?
That's a good question. Just kind of growing up, having to learn by yourself, pay bills by yourself, and going through it kind of by yourself with siblings, or hearing friends know that they don't have that supportive system at home, kind of probably pushed me towards the Bridges program and really wanting to help the youth. And being a part of the social work community, you hear everything about all the youth, but you never hear anything about the adults. So knowing that this program is an option, and it's so small still, it's been around for 5 years, I think, and it's still so small. So how can we grow it? The only way to grow it is by making more people aware of the program and getting more foster youth engaged with us. So.
That's awesome. I didn't realize how like newer the program was. There are many organizations across Dayton that kind of struggle to deal with the overwhelming amount of people that come into the foster care system. Not just the foster care system, but sort of like the cycle of like from foster care to aging out and like ending up homeless or like incarcerated or something. How does Bridges sort of just deal with this cycle of new faces constantly like entering and leaving you guys?
Specifically to Bridges?
Yeah. Or if you know, like, if you have, like, more stuff about, like, SAFY and, like, other things in general. Like, it doesn't have to be about Bridges. I just figured that's probably
the best case, yeah. Because it's, I mean, per program it's different. Since we're technically a grant program, but that's besides the point. How do we? The biggest thing that we try to do as a program, as Bridges, is be in contact with the counties. We have a really good working relationship with Miami County. Their IL program really works with us in getting the youth ready to enter the program. So there's times where youth turn 18 and they just go straight to the shelter because they don't want to be a part of the program. But we work with the county in order to ensure that they have housing once they turn 18, where they can help a little bit, but once they turn 18, they're done. So ensuring that the county is able to put the emancipation in the court system as quickly as possible for us to take over. And that way we can start communicating with our coordinators and everything like, hey, I'm about to have this application. It needs to be approved. Like, this person's going to be homeless. If we can't get them into an apartment as soon as they turn 18, we do have the option to kind of put them up in a hotel, give them resources for a shelter. It's not always the best case scenario, or even if they want to live with a family or friend, we can do that until we can get them stable enough to get them enrolled and started in the program.
We've talked with a lot of individuals who believe the foster care system is like broken, or like there's just aspects about it like as a whole that needs to be fixed. Why do you think this is such a widely shared sentiment?
It's a difficult question. So we're a private foster agency, so we don't necessarily deal with inside the county. So the counties work with us and we work with the counties. Why do I feel like it's broken? Say the question again, because I'm like, why is this so difficult to answer? Like, I know what I want to say, but I'm like,
You are good, no worries at all. Why do you think it's such a widely shared sentiment that so many people believe the foster care system is broken?
Because it is. I mean, it's just unfortunate how quickly youth get brought into the program, whether it just be because they've gotten arrested a few times and the mom or dad can't handle it, or aunt or grandma can't handle it, and so they just like, I know that sounds super crappy, but like we can't give them their ends meet. And then there's other situations where you get called for a wellness check. As a first responder, you get called for a wellness check and you walk inside that house and it's not livable, let alone having kids in the house. It's just a cycling door. I know that it's hard to, it's really truly hard to explain why I feel like this system is broken. It's just some biological families do the necessary steps to get that youth back, but others do the bare minimum and still get that youth back, and then it becomes a domino effect of that youth is coming back into care yet again because, 6 months went by. They made the changes at that point, but they're not maintaining it or sustaining that, I guess you can say. Anything helps. Sometimes the youth or adults that are in the program just need somebody to actually listen to them and not tell them what to do. Just sit there and listen. There's any way to help, whether it's donating your time to volunteer with the youth or volunteer maybe some stuff that you have at home that you no longer use, donating that to an agency that could be helpful, or even volunteering your home to become a foster parent. Like anything helps develop them into the agency to be better or the youth to be better. Yeah.
If you could change one thing about the foster care system to make it better for kids, what would it be?
What would it be? That's a heavy question.
Yeah, I know we kind of like had a similar question.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to answer. If you can't think of anything like on the spot like this, that's totally fine.
I mean, what can make the agency? Program as a whole or this agency? Like just foster care as a whole?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how to answer that, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I know, it's just like there's so much.
There's so much, and it's like I am still learning a lot still, even though I've been in the program, like been a part of a social work for so long. More workers, more foster homes, so there's not 3 or 4 kids crammed in one room. I mean, those are pretty much the big things. So each of those individuals can get more one-on-one than what they're getting. That's, I guess, an easy way to put it without getting too detailed.
If you had to describe the foster care system in one word, what would it be?
One word. Inspiring, I guess. The reasoning for that is no one wants to be a foster parent, so it's inspiring to see the ones that put maybe their family aside or bring foster youth into their home to show them love. So stuff like that I can see as inspiring.
And then my last question for you, for all of the foster children that are still like out there, like holding out for hope and love, like what would you say to them?
Continue to have hope. Each month we're opening more and more foster homes. Love is out there somewhere, whether it be in a foster home or a significant other or that teacher that just gives you a little extra care sometimes. There's hope still for you. You just got to keep moving forward, unfortunately.
All right, well, that's it for my questions.
Okay.